Backyard Paradise online at landisbc.com. That's the great Adam Schefter. Shefty, good morning, sunshine.
Andrew, John, I got to tell you the story. So initially, I was supposed to be yesterday in Nashville with Rex Ryan. He was having a Sunday countdown gathering at his house, and I was flying today to Orlando from Nashville, but I was doing it later in the morning. But the day before, he called me. He's like, hey, Teddy Bruschi's got something that came up. Sam Ponder can't make it till the next day. We haven't heard back from Randy Moss. So I think we're going to have to delay it. So we're not going to do it. I'm like, okay. So I still had to go to Orlando Wednesday, which that was my plan. So at about 2:30 in the morning, I'm laying there. I can't sleep because I got an early morning flight. I've already boarded the flight. And I say, oh, man, I forgot that I have Philly radio at 8 a.m. So I texted John at about 2:45 a.m. John, you get me on earlier.
Yeah, I and it was weird because when I get a text at that hour of the night, I think immediately death.
Yeah.
So this was good news to hear that you were alive and that everything was okay.
Well, yeah, I wondered. I was hoping I wasn't waking you.
No, it's all right. We get up at ungodly hour.
Yeah, we're up bright and early. But we appreciate you still coming on today, man, and thank you for thinking of us. We know that this is your favorite hit of the week. We know that, so thank you for doing it.
I do enjoy my time with you guys, and I do enjoy being in the Philly market, absolutely.
Well, I'm sure you also enjoy summertime sports talk. I want to start this off with you. So yesterday, we had one of our hosts here on the station call in because 2 days ago on these airwaves, he said that he believes that the Eagles will start the season 1-3, and he gave actual reasons why. Part of it was the turmoil that happened last year, but also the new coordinators and the young players defensively for the Eagles. Vic Fangio obviously is very respected in this league. Do you believe that Vic Fangio can step right in with a defense that was horrible last year, 30th in the league, and a lot of new pieces this year, where they can almost start the season off hot like they have in the last couple of years? How difficult of a task is that for him?
Well, I think they're going to be improved when they start the year. And what I mean by that is improved over last year. But I do think that the units should get better over the year, and that the offensive and defensive units will come together as the season goes on. But I think that when the season opens, I think there's enough talent there that when they open up in a new offensive unit, in a new defensive unit, that it should be improved over last year just because of the level at which they were playing last year. So, I mean, they play the Packers in the opener. Who do they play the next 3 weeks?
They play. They come home for Atlanta, and you'll be here for Monday Night Football, hopefully. Mm-hmm. And then 2 road games at New Orleans, at Tampa Bay.
They won't be 1-3. I don't know what they'll be, but they won't be 1-3. I don't believe they'll be 1-3.
Let me ask you something. When you think of teams that win championships or at least compete for championships, we're looking at this pass rush of the Eagles, and we have serious questions about whether we see enough sacks there, considering that has been something that has been a staple of the Eagles for years to come. Do you think this Eagles team has enough talent and a guy in charge that's going to get after the quarterback enough?
Well, I would just say to you that I am a big fan of the guy in charge. And I think he's one of the top defensive coordinators in the game, period. And has been one of the best defensive coordinators in the game for a long period of time. So if anybody's going to get it out of him, it's going to be him. That's the way it is. And there's enough talent. Would they like to be more talent? Absolutely. Are they always looking? Sure. But they've added enough talent to where I think they could open the season, have a stellar defense, do what they need to do, get the type of pass rush they need. I think it's there. And Vic Fangio, I think, is the right guy right now at the right time.
How much stock would you put into Devin White? Last year, linebackers was a big issue for the Eagles, and he's a guy that's been struggling the last couple of seasons. But when he came into the league, he was tremendous. Wins a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Should the Eagles put a lot of stock into Devin White being this impact player, or is he more so a veteran presence in the middle of the field when they're still trying to usher in Kobe Dean into the NFL?
Well, here's what I would say there. At one point, he was an incredible linebacker. And last year, for whatever reason, his performance dropped off. And it dropped off dramatically. Now, which is it going to be? Was that the system in Tampa? That's hard to imagine because he was productive there. You know, was he going through something personally? Did he not? Well, I don't know the answers to this. But, you know, sometimes players fall off and they can't get back. And sometimes players fall off. They know they fell off and they use it as a chip to challenge themselves and get back to a level at which they perform. Is Devin White going to achieve the heights that he reached during the prime of his career? That would surprise me. He's done it for a long period of time, and that's hard to sustain. But can it be a solid, good linebacker for them? Yes. And, it's not like they invested a ton of money into him. But he did fall off last year. For whatever reason, I don't know the answer to that as to why he did. He'd have to explain that. And maybe he doesn't even feel like he did. But I could tell you there were people on Tampa that felt like he did. And so it's up to him to try to get back to the level of play to help the Eagles win this season.
If you talk to, let's take this into the future. Let's say it's around Halloween, and you sat down and did a little conversation with Jalen Hurts, and you asked him, what is it that you love the most about Kellen Moore and this offense? What do you think Jalen Hurts' answer would be to you?
Well, I think ultimately it's going to come back to the winning, John, right? Like,
well, of course.
If he has a system that's going to allow them to win, but I think Kellen Moore likes to throw the football. I think he likes to throw some of the deep balls. I think that'll merge with a lot of what Jalen likes to do. And again, look, if Jalen Hurts is playing like Jalen Hurts 2022, then he's going to love Kellen Moore. If he's not, then it's going to be a question. So I just think however that is, whatever it takes, whatever it means, he's got to get Jalen Hurts back to being one of the best players in football, not to the guy that was struggling last year to where you're spending every waking moment of the show figuring out what's wrong with him and the team. And by the way, you ever notice how many unnecessary announcements there are on an airplane?
It's amazing, isn't it?
And tell that guy walking down the aisle that that's not a carry-on that he's trying to bring on.
This is the fifth announcement. We got everything we need to know. We know what's going on. Yeah, we know. Small device. We know all this, right? We know all this.
It's amazing, Shefty. All right, so every once in a while when we have you on, I love asking you about how the league looks at certain players. We've asked you about Jalen Hurts. We've asked you about A.J. Brown. I want to ask you about Dallas Goedert, because Dallas Goedert has 2 years left on his contract. Next year will be his final year, and we know that sometimes 1 year left means it's time to start working on a contract or it's time to start thinking about where to go. Dallas Goedert, a guy that I think is extremely talented but may not have been used enough, and it's not his fault. He's got A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith as teammates. How is Dallas Goedert viewed around league circles?
I think Dallas Goedert is a guy that's going to thrive in this offense. We've talked about the fact that in Kellen Moore's offense, I think he likes to throw the football to the running backs and the tight ends and feature them in the passing game. And Dallas got another announcement. We know, man. Okay, we know. Okay, we're continuing the boarding process. We got it. Okay, so basically, with Dallas Goedert, here's a guy that I think has potential that has yet to be realized. I think when you go around the Eagles organization and talk to them, they think he's a monster, and they think he's capable of having a huge year. And I think when you have that type of talent and that type of potential, and you put it in a system that likes to feature the tight end, I think Dallas Goedert's going to have a bigger year than he's had in recent years for the Eagles. I think he's going to be one of these guys that really steps up this year. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
Last couple days, while these players have their freedom, what are some of the weird things you've heard from players or coaches that they do during this downtime? Yeah, have you heard any interesting stories? Guys doing crazy stuff?
No, I think everybody feels it, right? On the one hand, you're excited to get back. All you have to do is think of the feeling of back to school, right? What's it like when you're going back to school and you're excited to start the new year and meet your new teachers and see your friends, and you're also dreading it because you know all the work that's ahead. It's the same exact thing.
Because Andrew just got back from Lithuania.
Yes, I did.
And I don't know how many, coaches or players did an adventure like that.
Yeah, who knows? And by the way, Shefty, I was in Lithuania, and I met 4 Lithuanian Eagles fans. They don't speak English. All right? So I said, go Birds 4 different times and never got a response. And I was upset because I was like, oh, you frauds, why are you wearing that shirt? I found out they didn't even speak English, so they didn't know what I was saying. How amazing is that?
They did know F Dallas.
Yes, they did not.
Those were the only 2 English words they did know.
What was the highlight of your trip to Lithuania?
Drinking a lot of beer and eating a lot of grandma's basically cooking. It was amazing. I'm very passionate about my heritage, Shefty. So I've been there 3 times now. But a lot of it. I mean, the sun doesn't set until like 10:30 at night, right? So you're experiencing daytime all day long, and it's a cool 70 degrees basically every single day out there during the summer. So that helps when it's not 95 like it is here.
Do you stay with your grandma when you're there, Andrew?
No, I meant like grandma's cooking in terms of everybody knows the recipes back there,
Okay.
So and that every single restaurant has those kinds of recipes. So it was tremendous. So I had an absolute blast.
Now you have an event in Orlando tonight. Does that mean like Magic Kingdom today, Epcot?
No, again, we were on the phone a few weeks back. I was in Washington meeting with legislators to raise awareness about screening for type 1 diabetes and raising awareness and funds and those kinds of things. And basically this is another function that's connected to type 1 diabetes where there's it's a gala where they bring together a bunch of families who have people in their family with type 1 diabetes, and tonight to kind of offer encouragement to tell them about living their best life. And then my wife is type 1 diabetic, and so I see firsthand what it's like, and it's a very difficult, challenging condition, and I watch her deal with it every day. And obviously, she bears the brunt of it, but it impacts everybody in the family. And so this gala tonight is to celebrate people with type 1 champions in their family, and just a continuation of some of the work that I've tried to do during the summer. But the gala's in Orlando tonight. I'm flying down with one of my coworkers, and we were just talking like. They had a 7 a.m. flight, and they had a 1 p.m. flight. The 1 p.m. flight, if it's delayed at all, you're not going to be there on time. So you got to take the 7 a.m.
Sure.
So we're going to be there at 10 a.m. So we got like 3-4 hours of nothing. And I just said to her, I'm like, hey, maybe we should go over to Magic Kingdom and go on some of these rides. But I don't think there'll be enough time to do that. I'll just sit in the hotel and make some calls and do some work, I think, probably.
Well, I think it's beautiful, as busy you are, that you are still taking the time to doing this and making the early trip. And thank you for joining us early this morning, Shefty. We always enjoy our time with you. We can't wait to talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Adam.
My apologies to John for getting up at 2:45. Glad I am alive, too. That's a good thing.
That was good.
We'll be back to the regular schedule next Wednesday.
Thank you, brother.
You're the man,
Take care,
Shefty.
man.
We appreciate it. There he is, Adam